Um, I want to talk about shutdowns and fat. Um, this is going to be a practical and basic discussion. It's also going to be um, much based on um, like application of common knowledge to the shutdown world. But when we talk about lean maintenance or lean shutdowns, we're really going back to the work of Shigeo Shingo, and he said that lean is an all-out war against waste from both manufacturing inefficiencies and underutilization of people. So I want you to just visualize in your mind that this is a serious war for certain people who want things to be as lean as possible, as little extra as possible. Now, the lean shutdowns are properly part of your larger lean maintenance effort. You know, in routine maintenance, you have breakdowns and you have corrective, you have work order systems, and all these things are areas where the concepts of lean maintenance can be applied. Machine design, planning and scheduling, all these areas are ripe for lean maintenance. In this discussion, we're going to talk um, just about the large events, the shutdown type events. And our mission in this talk is to find the easiest waste to eliminate and eliminate it. So I'm not looking for the really fancy stuff. I'm looking for, you could almost say, the piles of debris that, whenever there's a pile of debris, there's usually waste behind it somewhere. Now, waste in itself is expensive, but it's worse. Its impact on everything else is actually much more devastating because waste mucks up the works and makes companies really lazy and slow and hard to respond. They because of waste, they change their view from external towards the customer to internal towards their forms and um, policies and procedures that don't add any value to the situation. You know, specifically, lean organizations, within a particular field are the low-cost producers because they're not producing anything other than the value, the product that the customer values. Lean shops are also flexible and can react quickly to changes in the marketplace. And I find that when shops are lean, people seem sharper or smarter even. Lean organizations are healthier, both the organization itself and it's healthier to work there because people are motivated. So it's altogether it's an important point. Now, where do we look? We're going to look everywhere is where we look for waste. And the key thing is to look for a resource in a pile or a resource that's not being used. So what I want you to do is type on your side like some of the waste that you can think of in your last shutdown, and it would be denoted by somewhere where there's a lot of stuff left over, there's things not used. So we'll take a half a minute here, and you'll write down your comments, and then we'll take a look at some of the things that are written down.
And in order to do that, if you click on the T at the top toolbar for text and then click onto the slide, you can type your text and click to have your text stay.
You might want to take a mental walk around the site and go to the storeroom. Look at, are there workers? not assigned? Are there people waiting for things? Excess inventory, condensate, parts. People are writing. Great. So these are the things, in searching for spare parts, for example, there's the spare parts are, a problem, and then the searching is actually a problem. Seam condensate not recovered. That would be in the area of utilities. We got spare parts again. Good. This is great. Searching for tools, supplies. Great. Okay, what I want to do is move on and look at some of these areas specifically and see, what we can see from looking at it. The resources to focus on to reduce. And if you kind of look, if you could see both of them at the same time, you have anyone's labor, anyone that you pay. It could be a contractor, it could be your own people, it could be people from operations, any materials. Rentals are, in some shutdowns, are huge amounts of money. Energy, this would be in your steam condensate. Fuel, water. Actually, duration is a resource in that the plant produces something, and if the duration is shorter, the plant can produce more. Commissioning problems. That's one of the, kind of the worst kinds of things. Your shutdown is over, yet you can't get stable production out. Any kind of effort, and then any safety or health event. Now is not the time to cut back on maintenance and safety. With Deepwater Horizon, we don't know exactly if there was a lot of maintenance involved in the problem, but cutting back is not indicated at this point. Articles are saying that the Texas City refinery blast was due to cutbacks in maintenance. On the other side of the picture, on the revenue side, Citgo basically almost added a refinery just from improving PM and maintenance. So Citgo, 115,000 barrels a day is a lot of output, and it came from their existing refineries just by improving their PM and maintenance. Now, how many people that are listening have had their budgets frozen or cut? And you'll just, vote on whether you've had your budgets frozen or cut.
And in order to do that, you can just click on the raised hand. So we'll show by a show of hands how many people have had their budgets frozen or cut, and the hand icon is just below the attendee list on the right-hand side, the panel on the right-hand side.
It looks like we're getting... now, can everybody see this as it comes up? Yes, cut or remain flat with an increase in equipment. Okay, so that's a good one. That's a cut. Remain flat with an increase in equipment.
And we're seeing just about everybody has their hands raised.
Great. So the point of this is to look for the lowest hanging fruit is usually in the area of over-ordering materials and not returning unused stuff as soon as you're clear you won't use it. That's usually the lowest hanging fruit. When I visit places, one of the things that I see frequently are, stocks of stuff that was left over from the last and the one before, shutdown before, and even maybe the one before. And I say, well, what are you going to use this stuff for? Well, they're never going to use it again, but they can't get rid of it because of accounting problems. And now you're stuck. This is the area of, having fat in your operation is having, in their case, literally there was trailers in the back full of this stock, and engineers would root through there looking for bits to for projects. But again, it's a very inefficient way to do it, and it's usually low-hanging fruit. It's usually something that can be fixed relatively easily. Now, one of the things that works violently against you is to assume something. So I'm saying to note explicitly whether there's enough supplies. This came to me during a shutdown in Trinidad. Something really simple. They went down to the warehouse to look at how much welding rod they had, and they had a couple cases, and it was they thought it was clearly enough. When the shutdown actually started and they went to get the rod, one of the cases was completely empty. It was just an empty box. And another case only had 1 or 2 boxes of rod in it. So if you can kind of imagine the embarrassment of having, welders there, and you have enough welding rod for the next 2 or 3 hours, not the next 7 days. Needless to say, they, got on the phone and practically cleaned out the stock on the entire island and had to fly some in. But this was based on an assumption that a box was full that nobody actually touched or looked at. We see that I was in a shutdown in Fort McMurray, Canada, where the tar sands are, and they had 141 cranes on one of the sites. There's 3 major sites up there. 141 cranes, and up till the downturn in the oil usage, it was almost an annuity to ship a crane up there and leave it there, and then every month you got to check. Now they're trying to be a little more careful about that because there's not unlimited margins. But what we find is that people have rented equipment, and it's not always someone's job to return it as soon as they can, as soon as it's clearly not needed. I do not mean returning it before it's, while it's still needed, obviously. Now, I made up this 50-to-1 rule, but I think that if you look at your own experience, you may find that it's 500-to-1 for you. But we find that it's cheaper to resolve a collision of resources on paper than it is on the ground. Now, what I'm meaning by that is, if 2 people want the same crane that we were talking about, it's 50 times cheaper to change it on the computer to schedule it the next day, or to literally erase it from a schedule and put it on the next day's schedule, than it is for the 2 supervisors to have a shouting match on the ground while the crews wait and while the critical path ticks on. So this is the powerful part of why software made such a difference originally with shutdowns. The first shutdown that was done with the computer is the catalyst plant for DuPont in Kentucky, I believe. Using the computer, they shortened the shutdown duration from 125 hours to 97 hours. Now, that was unheralded. That was unprecedented. That they shortened it, and the way they shortened it was they reduced the collision of the resources, so they get through the whole shutdown with the same, with less resources and less duration. So rentals would be the same thing as the heavier equipment, the smaller equipment. Now there's freebies, and that is you occasionally bring in resources, um, either for contingency or uh, because you need a resource on Monday and then you don't need the resource until Wednesday, but there's no way to send somebody home, a contractor home, for the Tuesday. So these are resources which are being paid for, but um, are not being currently used. And this is the only time that it pays to bring routine maintenance jobs, that is, jobs that are done during your normal maintenance time. This is the only time when it pays to bring those jobs into the shutdown. Normally, it is always more expensive to do routine maintenance during a shutdown than during a regular time when it's not a shutdown period. So you may have a situation where you have, a half a dozen pipe fitters available for a day or two. You always want to be looking for opportunities to, give them short projects and things that you'd like to get done. Now, since most shutdowns are run by contractors, or the labor supplied by contractors, and many shutdowns are bid using a fixed bid basis. Probably most of the lawsuits come from a lack of meeting of the minds between the contractor and the owner. So what I'm recommending is, always look at your scope of work as if you were a contractor, because you'll see that there's missing bits that make the contractor's job easier, but also reduce the numbers of contingencies that they have to have, so that they can actually give you a better price, a more solid price. And along with that is to be a good customer over a long period of time. Shutdowns are a long time event, things that happen over and over again for most of you. So you want to be building the relationships. So I recommend that you have a process for settling claims and do that as promptly as you can, particularly before people start to forget and it gets in the hands of attorneys and becomes, he said, she said kind of thing. Now, one of the biggest things in a shutdown are something called discoverables. Discoverables are work that's found after you start the shutdown or after you shut the plant down. Discoverables are, in some shutdowns, might be 10% of the amount of the shutdown, and if it's a particularly not well thought through shutdown, it could be as much as 30%. Now, there's a couple of strategies for that. One strategy is that opening stuff up is like the day one job. So we're going through and just opening everything up and, looking to see how much work actually is there, and so we know early on what's going to happen. We also should know from the history of the equipment, what would be the amount of discoverables in that area. But even more than that would be, making sure you schedule your non-destructive testing, your predictive maintenance, and your PM before the shutdown, so that you can have whatever knowledge you'll gain from doing that. We also want to be talking to our PM inspectors and PDM inspectors, because they may have a sense of things that they're not putting in their reports that might be useful to you. There was a couple of shutdowns that I went on that where the contractor and the owner really were working on this problem of discoverables. In one place, they actually did a mini shutdown before the major shutdown, where they just popped stuff open and took a look at it and made notes, took pictures, to see what they were going to be in for. They then shut. They then put everything back together again. Brought the plant back up. It sounds like crazy to run two shutdowns when you could have run one, but they would then go back into engineering and planning, and planned all the work they saw so that when they came to the actual shutdown, the amount of discoverables was dramatically lower. Um, in one place in a pharmaceutical company, they actually kind of acted out the shutdown. They did a dry run of the shutdown before the event, so that it was the the logistics of getting stuff in and out was thought through. Um, so that seemed like a kind of an interesting thing, and they worked out some problems ahead of time that would have caused problems, but they fixed them before they actually did the shutdown. Another idea is, since you're going to be doing the next shutdown, a year from now or 2 years from now, they actually the shutdown contractor assigned some people that started planning the next shutdown while you were doing this shutdown. Now, the advantage there was, while stuff was opened up, there was work you were deciding not to do at this time, but it probably would have to get done the next time. So they were making drawings and taking pictures and counting gear teeth and trying to figure out what different spare parts were needed and stuff like that. So it really, really made a difference to be thinking long term, so that when you're actually doing today's shutdown, you've got 2 or 3 people or more planning the next one, doing job plans and projects and stuff like that. This is a different kind of waste. If you would be a fly on the wall and look at your meetings, you would find some of you have really good meeting discipline, okay? But others of you, your meetings are horrendous, with people talking on different topics at the same time, and decisions being made and then unmade. A shutdown is run off of meetings. So one of the rules is that the more comfortable the room, particularly with food and drink, the longer the meeting for the same agenda items. So if you have a morning shutdown meeting, you do not want it in a comfortable room. You want it standing up or in a very minimally decorated and hard chair room. You want to have an agenda so that people know what we're going to be talking about and require people to come on time. You want to end when you say you're going to end. And this is the most important thing. And it's hard to describe, but you need a system to manage what people promised from the last meeting. So if I promise to do research, somehow I get notified a day or two before the next meeting that I made that promise. So a system to manage those kind of promises. And then one thing that I find horrible is that you go into some meetings and people haven't done their homework, so you spend part of the meeting going over the things that the people should have read at home, on their own or at their desk, whatever. So we want to have an environment where everyone has done their homework. There's one more thing that's not on this slide that I really want to say, is that you want to have an environment where people can tell you what's going wrong without getting in trouble. In normal maintenance, meetings, people a lot of times will hide a little bit of, what's going wrong, hoping that they won't get caught or whatever. In a shutdown, that is absolutely disastrous. You want to have an environment where people can bring it forward, you guys get it on the table, you deal with it, and you move on to the next thing. So that's an important both meeting thing and in personal interactions. It's okay to bring problems forward. And then, when you're done, you ask the question, did the shutdown or project really meet the requirements, financial and other objectives that you set out for in the beginning. So here's our upcoming events.
Thanks so much, Joel. Before we close out the call, I just wanted to give everybody one opportunity to ask any questions for Joel through the panel. While we wait on that, just wanted to highlight next month's webinar. Be sure to tune in to hear Tara Denton talk about using the click model to keep your skills fresh. Okay, one more minute to see if we have any questions. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and we hope to see you next month. Have a great day. Bye.